Welcome to the Painting Experience podcast for July 2014. On the Painting Experience podcast, founder Stewart Cubley explores the potential of the emerging field of process arts and shares inspiration and insights from his ongoing workshops and retreats. In today's episode, Stewart asks the question, why should someone do process painting at all? What happens when you paint without a goal or purpose? And how can it help you find ease and creative connection?
Something happens when you do process painting. What is that? It's not immediately obvious to an outside observer because it's not for the appearance. It's not that you're painting a painting for some result that you have in mind. It's not for selling your painting. It's not for getting recognized. There's no goal in mind, and it's not even interpreted. We're not having a story about it. So I think it's a valid question. Why do process painting at all? What happens that's actually makes it worthwhile, makes it meaningful for you? I'd like to explore that a little bit today because something does happen. And it happens rather unconsciously. It's not something that you can predict and set out to achieve. So first there's the leap. There's the willingness to pick up a brush, to put color on the brush, and to touch the brush onto the canvas or the paper and not know what's happening, not have a goal in mind. This is a lot. This is pretty huge because there's a lot of resistance that comes up to doing this, and it gets put off. All sorts of excuses and reasons for not doing it will show up. It's quite a challenge to do something for nothing, to do something for no reason. But once you take the leap, you enter a different sphere. You enter a different environment psychically in yourself. The brush that has the color on it that you've put on the paper and that doesn't know where it's going seems to know where it's going, or at least seems to enjoy where it's going. There's a movement that takes place. And so you have taken the leap. You've dared to allow yourself to do something spontaneously without having any goal or reason in mind. And then when you do that, something takes over. And that's what I'd like to explore today. What is it that takes over? And is that of any value? What's the purpose of that? What's the meaning of that? So one of the first things I think you recognize once you've kind of entered that realm is that it's easy. There's something that seems rather easy about it. This is no big deal, just taking color and paint and moving with it and not knowing what I'm doing. It's kind of playful. And sometimes people say, oh, it's just. I was just being silly, or I was just being spontaneous. That we append the experience with the word just as though it's not really the real thing. It's not really important. And I think that we equate difficulty with progress. That if we're not experiencing difficulty and that we have an obstacle that we have to meet and overcome, and that we have to suffer along the way, that we're not really getting anywhere. The experience is really of no value if we're not having to work at it. This is one of the first things we encounter when we start doing process painting, is that there's a quality of ease. And our challenge is to give credibility to ease. And the challenge we have to overcome if you want to have an obstacle for yourself is actually to give credibility to ease. That's not so easy to give credibility to ease. But it's important. Because this is part of what happens when you take the leap and enter the stream. This is the stream. The stream is movement. The stream is non-thinking. The stream is spontaneous action. And there's a very natural quality about that feels easeful. And it doesn't mean that sometimes it gets challenging and tight and we don't know what to do. But there's something in the action itself that has a quality of ease. So this is one of the first things to recognize. about what happens when you take the leap into process painting and enter this space. You see, there's a internal space that opens when you use art materials in this way. And partially it's because it's nonverbal, that it very quickly bypasses that part of our thinking process that's so involved in words and concepts. And when you actually give yourself the permission to move outside of that sphere in rather a spontaneous and playful way, using the powerful tools of colors and shapes and forms and images, you enter a different part of the psyche, and there's a spaciousness there. There's a space and of movement within that space. And I call it the stream. And it has different characteristics, and so one of them is that it feels rather easy to do this and feels rather simple. And it's something that's sustaining at the same time, that it doesn't just end. One brush stroke leads to the next, and one color leads to the next. You feel yourself drawn, and you realize that there's an imperative behind that brush. It wants to go somewhere. And it's not because you decided where it should go and what it means and what you're trying to accomplish. It has its own mind, almost. The brush seems to have its own direction. When I say the brush, of course, I mean the hand that's holding the brush and the arm that the hand is attached to. I mean you. That there's this direction within you that seems to want to unfold. And it knows where it's going, and it wants to go there if you give it this spaciousness, if you give it this permission. It wants to go there. Now, another quality of this dream that we enter is its timelessness. There's no time. In fact, hours can go by. You can pick up a brush and get started, and you look at the clock and, oh my God, it's been an hour and a half. Where did that time go? I was not even aware of the time passing. This is a very common experience in process painting. That's another indicator that you've entered that stream, because time is associated with result. When you have a result in mind and you have a goal that you're trying to achieve, then there's the time to get there. And there's the pressure of time, the weightiness of time, because you know where you're going and come on, let's get it on with, and I should get there, and why am I'm wasting my time. All that comes up. But if there's no goal, then this time becomes a very different thing. It becomes much more fluid, and you find another characteristic of this space that you enter when you do process painting is the timeless quality of it. Then I would say that there's a feeling of rightness. And this is a little harder to quantify because it's not about feeling good in the traditional sense of the word, because sometimes when you're expressing yourself in this spontaneous way, you're dealing with feelings that are not necessarily feeling good. You might be feeling rather chaotic. You might be feeling disturbed inside. You might be feeling that there's something that's happened in your life that's upsetting you. And this can be a really important time, actually, to enter the space, because you can be with those feelings and you can move with those feelings of upset or disturbance. And yet, it's not that you're feeling good, but you're feeling right. That there's a quality of rightness. There's a quality that you're in the right place, that you're in right relationship to, and that you're with what is fully rather than avoiding it or grasping towards it. That there's a way in which you are being with yourself and with the reality of the moment that really feels right. And this is a very definite quality of the space, and it's what brings people back to it again and again and again. Because it's always different. It's not like some place you just get to that it's always the same. It's much more dynamic than that. It's much more vital, much more alive. And you realize that this stream, whatever you want to call it, this space, this place within yourself, is always there. It's not something you achieve. It's not something you have to get to. It's something you have to recognize that it's there. It's happening for you if you give it permission. And it's not about appearance. And I think that's really, really important, because when you actually take part in this experience, the mind goes back and forth. It touches this space, and it touches the timelessness, and it touches the rightness, and it touches the kind of flow and enjoyment of that. And then it pops out and says, but, what am I accomplishing here? I'm not getting anything out of this. And so we kind of flip back and forth between these two parts of ourselves. And I think part of the growth that occurs in process painting is recognition of that space within oneself and the availability of that space in oneself. And it's not about painting ultimately. Painting is a portal to that space. It's a tool that is very effective in opening the door to that space, but it's not about painting ultimately. It's about that space, that dimension of being which we have the possibility of knowing. And so these are things that are a little harder to talk about. They're rather ineffable. And I think this is a question then that would be of importance if you're considering doing process painting, is that do you have a thirst for the ineffable? Do you have an intimation of that presence within yourself that really transcends appearance? That's not about stuff. It's not about what's happening out there. It's not about the details of your external life. It's something more internal, and it's something much, much bigger than that.
You can learn more about the painting experience and find a list of upcoming process painting workshops by visiting our website at www.processarts.com. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please share it with a friend. The theme music for this podcast comes from Stefan Jacob. We thank you for listening and hope you'll join us again soon.